Hey, listeners, it's time for a Red Star Daily Update. Our pleasure to have the crew here from REDSTAR Fertilizers, right? I've been saying just Red Star, but maybe I should expand the title a little bit to give us a little insight into this unique growing season. So, guys, why don't you introduce yourself and what you do at the company, and we'll jump into that tidbit for the week.
Yeah, I'm Brody Benton, Regional Business Manager, covering Iowa, Nebraska, Missouri.
Awesome.
Ryan Molinoff, owner, with my wife in Lee, Nebraska.
Tom Stanton. I head up our REDSTAR branded business, which is our specialty fertilizer business. So I have the pleasure to work with these guys heading that up.
That's right. So we talked last time about the distinct difference in growing seasons, and we focused a lot on what the corn looks like. So I think it's time to give soybeans some sunlight.
They need some love, though.
They need a little bit of love. So why don't we dive into what it looks like?
Yeah, so, on the soybean side, same thing with corn. We got a lot of moisture. Soybeans really don't like wet feet. And so there's some unique challenges that we have this year compared to previous years. They also like more heat as well to really start growing above ground as well. So how do we then start jump-starting that plant right now so we can then build that factory through the vegetative time frame so we have some carbohydrates when we get into that R1 stage? So,
we're looking at soybeans that were planted April 10th to soybeans that are yet to go in the ground probably June 10th. We'll still be planting soybeans. And so we're going to have a very wide range this year of the beans that we're going to have. But I think what we want to try to do is focus on that, V3, V4 timing through R1, because we really try to need to drive as much growth as we can here as we get into June to get that plant growing, right? Because beans are so sunlight sensitive, we got to get them up and going. And a couple things that we're looking at to do that, and I'll talk about one of them and then kick it back to Brody, but we developed a product a couple of years ago called Red Shield. And Red Shield is a nice blend of phosphorus and potassium, and then we focused on boron, zinc, and manganese because those three are always deficient when we look at corn and soybeans, especially vegetatively. And then we put something special in it, and we've talked about it before, NovaStar, which is our polypeptide amino acid product. And so we've got the key things that soybeans need. You need potash, you need boron, and you need a little bit of a nitrogen source, which NovaStar provides, just to help that plant to get up and get going. And right now, where we're so wet, the plant is struggling to pull nitrogen and is struggling to make those key amino acids, which turn into proteins. And so with Red Shield, it's a little bit like Brando from a few years back. It's kind of got everything that the soybean plant needs. And one of the key things is it's actually also going to help that plant to sort of fight off diseases as well. It's got something in it that really helps that plant with it's what we call systemic acquired resistance, just kicks in its own natural immune system and just helps it become more of a fighter. And so I think something like that at 32 ounces this time of year would be perfect.
That or the other option, looks at that sun-fed product that we talked about on corn, last week, doing the same sort of things as far as influencing the size of leaf structure, above ground growth, creating sugars to be able to push those back down to the root exudates. And here's the beautiful thing is you're not tied into one product. You could do a combination of Red Shield and Sun-Fed together and kind of get the best out of both worlds with those. Some other things that could also be considered, definitely, especially with the C3 plant, sugar, right? So, with the red sweet there, spiking that in from a sugar source to continue to jumpstart that carbohydrate production. And also early on here, soybeans are a C3 plant. They need carbon dioxide to create sugar. They are not like a corn plant that can convert O2, which takes more energy to convert O2 over to CO2, but still convert O2 over to CO2. They have to have carbon dioxide. And so where can we get that outside of our atmosphere? That's where we could cycle that from the soil and breaking down carbon. And that's where the biology comes into play that can go in this application as well.
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at not just Iowa, where we're at today, but really Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri, Minnesota, South Dakota, Wisconsin, Illinois, dare I go any farther, we're all wet. And the sugar is such a key part, Brody, what you just said. I always think back to Danny DeVito and the Snickers commercials. Corn and soybeans are hangry right now.
Right.
They're suffering. They don't look great. They need a little food. Sugar, I mean, Red Sweet is just a real simple thing right now to put with anything you go foliar applied, just to give you energy. And I think that's going to be critical here going forward the next 2 to 3 weeks.
So, Ryan, as your crew is out in the fields helping farmers make some of these decisions, what are some early warning signs that you might need to start doing something?
Well, growth development, just look at the plant and look at how the color is. When it's pale, you can quickly tell that it's hurting, it's sick, it needs some energy, it needs a boost. So
if our listeners are looking for maybe some advice from your team, what's the best way for them to connect with REDSTAR?
Look us up on Facebook, Twitter, our website's redstarne.com or redstarbranded.com.
That's great. Gentlemen, thank you so much for bringing another segment to our audience. I look forward to what we get to talk about next week.
Thank you.